Welcome to Red-tastic. Growing up, it was just my mom and me, 23 female, for a long time. My dad wasn't in the picture, so my mom was everything to me. Things started changing when I was 14 and my mom remarried. My stepdad wasn't a bad guy, but he came in between my mom and me, naturally, and as a 14-year-old, I didn't take it well. He had a daughter, Emma, 25 female now, who was 2 years older than me. From the moment we became a blended family, my mom became obsessed with being the perfect mom to Emma. I wasn't happy with this, and my mom took it way too far too. She would bend over backwards for Emma, cancel plans with me to do things with Emma, buy her things that I didn't get. Clothes, jewelry, even little trips. I remember one time she cancelled a birthday outing we had planned for me because Emma was moody about something, and she spent the day with her instead. It felt like I was the other daughter. My feelings were always dismissed. If I tried to talk about it, my mom would turn it around and say I was being difficult or that I needed to compromise, that I can't have her sole attention anymore because she had 2 daughters now. It's worth noting that stepdad never attempted to be any kind of father figure to me. He barely even acknowledged my presence. The worst of it came when I was 17. My grandmother, my mom's mom, had passed away a few years prior, and she left behind heirlooms that were supposed to go to the oldest daughter. In our family, these pieces of jewelry, including some valuable antique pieces, were meant for the oldest granddaughter as a sort of tradition. I was very close to my grandmother, and these heirlooms were not just valuable in a financial sense. They were precious to me sentimentally. I had always looked forward to having them as a way to keep her memory close. Sadly, on Emma's 18th birthday, my mom handed over every single piece of jewelry to her. She was like, "Emma is the oldest granddaughter now, so it's only fair she gets these." I felt like all the air was knocked out of my lungs. Later, when I tried to talk to my mom about it, she said she never thought I would be so selfish and petty as to take something important away from a motherless child. She kept saying things like she, grandma, would have wanted Emma to have them too. And you need to remember you're no longer an only child. I was heartbroken and angry. It was the final nail in the coffin for me. After that, I started making plans to leave as soon as I turned 18. I worked extra hours, saved every penny, and the day I turned 18, I moved out and cut contact. I stayed with friends, worked multiple jobs, even put myself in danger doing night shifts, and eventually got my own place. I have spent the past few years building a life for myself without them. Fast forward to a few months ago, out of the blue, my mom reached out, wanting to reconnect. She said she missed me and wanted to make things right. I was hesitant, but I missed her too. We started talking more regularly, but I kept things at a surface level to protect myself. One day, during one of our conversations, the topic of the heirlooms came up. The moment I mentioned them, her whole demeanor changed. She looked nervous and even a little scared, then quickly brushed it off and changed the subject. Her reaction was so odd that it stuck with me for days. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. One day when I messaged my aunt who lives abroad, I brought up the heirlooms to see if she knew anything about them. She blasted my mom for giving it to my stepsister. She was never happy and voiced her disdain when it happened. I asked her if she thought maybe they could have been included in a will. She said she found it strange too because she remembered her mom mentioning making a will sometime before she passed away, but she never knew if she did in the end. She didn't have much and the heirlooms were probably her most prized possession, so Aunt said she never inquired about her will. My aunt suggested I look into it. Now I'm sitting here wondering if there is more to this than I initially thought. I'm not sure what to think, but I have a gut feeling that my mom is hiding something, and she's scared that I would go prying. I have started to wonder if maybe there's a legal angle to this. Maybe my mom didn't have the right to give the heirlooms to Emma in the first place. I don't want to assume the worst of my mom, but I can't rest without knowing the full backstory. I'm considering seeking legal advice to see if there is any way I can find out what really happened with the heirlooms. I don't want to blow up my newly mended relationship with my mom, so can anybody suggest how I approach this? Update 1. Hi again, everyone. After talking with my aunt and reading the comments as well, I decided I needed to ask my mom directly. Maybe it wasn't the best approach, but I did anyway. So, during one of our recent calls, I gently brought up the topic. I asked her if there was a will when Grandma passed away, and whether the heirlooms were specifically mentioned. I made sure to keep my tone calm and non-confrontational because I didn't want to make it into a big deal. Well, my mom did not take it well. She got defensive and immediately said, "Why are you bringing this up now? We're trying to move forward and rebuild our relationship." She seemed pretty upset that I was asking about the heirlooms and said it was old news and that I should let it go. She kept insisting that there wasn't a will, or at least not one that specifically mentioned the jewelry, and that they weren't worth much anyway. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to stir up trouble or dig into the past or create problems. I was just still hurt about what happened. She didn't yell, but she was clearly irritated and kept saying I should focus on the present and not beat a dead horse. So yeah, she's clearly hiding something, and I bet there was a will that mentioned the jewelry. I have decided to consult with a lawyer to see if they can help me find out whether there was a will and what it might have said about the heirlooms. I do not know what stepsister did with them, whether she still has them or sold them, but if there was a will and the heirlooms were meant for me, then I deserve to know. I know this will end up hurting our chances of reconnecting, and I'm saddened by that. But if she really did cross the line with the law just to benefit Emma, I doubt I would even want a relationship with her. I'll update again once I know more. Thanks for listening and for all your support. Update 2. Well, the lawyer came through. He found my grandma's will in the country court. He contacted the lawyer who filed it and found that my mother collected everything listed in the will. Her antique dresser, some paintings, plus my jewelry. My lawyer says that it looks like hush money was involved and the lawyer could face charges if this were to proceed to court. When I found out, I had a mix of emotions. Relief that I wasn't imagining things, anger at my mom for lying, and just plain hurt that she would do something like this. I called her and told her I knew the truth. I told her I found the will and she committed a crime by obtaining something willed to me by fraudulent means. I told I wanted the heirlooms back, and if she didn't return them, I would have to consider legal action. The moment I mentioned legal action, my mom lost her shit. She started calling me names, saying I was being greedy and selfish, and that I didn't care about the family. She said, "Those heirlooms are Emma's now, and you need to accept that. You're being ridiculous." I told her that wasn't going to fly anymore. I had proof that they were supposed to be mine legally, and I wasn't going to let this go. She kept calling me names and derogatory things, so I hung up. My mom, stepdad, Emma, and her husband John decided to call an online family meeting to talk things out. I agreed to attend, knowing I had the upper hand. I just wanted to see the ridiculous excuses they would come up with, and they didn't disappoint. Basically, the meeting was just them trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the one in the wrong. My mom kept repeating like a broken record, "Why are you bringing up old stuff now that we are all trying to move forward? And Emma is the oldest granddaughter. It's only fair she gets the heirlooms." Emma sat there looking upset, and my stepdad chimed in saying I was being disrespectful and tearing the family apart over a few pieces of jewelry. But then John accidentally let something slip. They had sold the heirlooms, every single piece. I couldn't believe it. I asked them to clarify, and my mom tried to gloss over it, but the gist is that the jewelry could give them a nice push forward in life, so they took it. Now I know how they bought 2 brand new Audis plus a nice house. I asked how they could possibly justify selling something that never belonged to them in the first place, and they said it was all for the benefit of the family. And John said, "It's not like you were using them." I asked them what benefit did I receive from their sale as part of the family, and they were all silent. I told them I would be taking them to court and told my mom to be prepared to go to jail with the lawyer she conspired with. I'm not sure where this is going, to be honest though. A legal battle would be too costly for me, but I don't want to back down. I will keep you all updated as things progress. Thanks again. Update 3. Well, Emma and her husband reached out to me. They said they wanted to make things right and proposed a repayment plan. They offered to pay me back $1,000 a month it's paid off. The heirlooms are worth around $300,000, so I did the math, which meant that at $1,000 a month, it would take 25 years for me to get the full amount back. 25 years. I told them that was completely unacceptable. I wasn't going to wait 3 decades to get back what was stolen from me. I wasn't interested in dragging this out for the rest of my life. They tried to argue that they didn't have the money and were just trying to do the best they could. But I told them that wasn't my problem. They spent the money on new cars and a house, things they wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise. Meanwhile, my lawyer is proceeding with formal legal action. He sent them a legal notice of some kind, and now they're panicking. Suddenly, my mom, stepdad, Emma, and John were all calling and messaging me non-stop, saying I need to drop the lawsuit. Emma and John were begging me to reconsider and pleading that they didn't have the money to pay up front. Emma said that I was punishing her for something that happened when she was barely an adult and was beyond her control. I think that's ludicrous. She sold them as an adult and spent the money on things as an adult. She could have returned the heirlooms to Mom if she was so righteous. I'll keep you posted. I'm just relieved to have finally taken some steps towards getting what's rightfully mine. Final update. My family has agreed to settle this out of court. My mom is looking at jail time and she's keen to avoid that. My lawyer advises this is the best course of action as well. Emma and John are selling their 2 brand new cars and downsizing their house to come up with the money to pay me back. They wanted to arrange a payment plan with installments, but my lawyer refused the idea. They will offer a lump sum of $300,000. I would have loved to have at least some pieces of jewelry, but they're long gone. But at least I'm getting some justice. On a side note, I recently heard through a mutual friend that John has left Emma. Apparently he was in it for the money, and now that they're going to have to sell everything, he has decided to bail. I kind of feel bad for Emma, not gonna lie. I am relieved this is finally coming to an end. Thank you to everyone who supported me and gave advice.